So listen, just welcome everybody. I want to basically say good evening to you all. We have this webinar, if you like, set up as a Zoom large meeting, so people will be able to turn on their cameras and turn on the microphones, but we leave them off for now because it just makes it a little bit easier to get through what we have to get through. We have our main panel, if you like, of 3 people. Helen Butler is here joining us from Youthwork Ireland, Galway. Just a quick wave there, Helen. Thanks for that. And Helen's the Youth Information Officer. As you can see, she's based in Ballinasloe, and she's also a trainer with the National Parents Council and does a few other things as well. Niamh O'Flanagan is here with us, and Niamh is a school chaplain, as you can see, in Glenamaddy Community School here in Galway. And Gina Dermody is joining us as well, and she's our other main speaker, our other main panelist, if you like. And Gina is an adolescent psychotherapist, and she has a psychotherapy organisation in the west of Ireland, based in Tuam, actually, called Adolescent, and they do a multitude. So I'll show you our website too in a minute, right? So the plan really this evening is to spend an hour having a look together collectively at this kind of idea of the transition to secondary school and what we as parents can do to help our young people with that move. So that's really the plan. I'm going to take you through a very, very quick presentation that should give you a bit of a background to this and some insight into some things you can get ahead of as parents. And then we're going to switch to questions that we're going to be putting to the panel. And these guys are all absolutely experts in the field, and they've been there, seen it, lived it, have a lot of expertise, and many t-shirts to show as well. So there'll be a lot of information coming at you. So what I'd say, you can probably see on the screen there a website, but also an email address, so info@planetyouth.ie. I appreciate it's not very easy maybe if you're joining us as to maybe switch between phones and apps and things like that. But if you want to send in a question to put to the panel, by all means send it in to that email address. If you can make a note of it, info@planetyouth.ie. I'll be monitoring that this evening, and anything that comes in as a question, I'll be putting that to the panel if it's not being answered in the general run of things, right? So we'll have time to try and get through a lot of questions. I will be putting questions to the panel to be anonymously, so people don't need to be worried about, that I'll be reading out any names or anything. I won't be doing that. So if you want to submit a question, by all means do that, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so that's the plan for this evening. Short presentation. We'll be spending probably about 45 minutes or so going through questions with the panel. I'll show you the website quickly, which you'll probably find useful, and then we'll be wrapping up somewhere between 8 o'clock and 5 past 8. So that's the plan, basically. Right. So, okay, let me just show you this quickly. So the Planet Youth project is something we've been working on here in the west of Ireland since 2018, and it's a public health program designed to improve health outcomes for our young population, for our school-going population, in national school and in secondary school, based on what's known as the Icelandic prevention model, which has been hugely successful there, in a preventative model to try and improve adolescent substance use rates, which it has done highly successfully, but has also improved an awful lot of other health outcomes for young people, which is why we're adapting it for use here in Ireland. And we're running a big project in Galway, Mayo, Roscommon, looking at this. Certainly we're interested in substance use, but there's also other things we can see in the data that's collected around, as you can see on the screen, physical activity, screens, mental health, sleep. It's backed by most of the statutory bodies in the west of Ireland, so there are county councils, the ETB, TUSLA, HSE, and so on. And what we do is every 2 years now, we do an extensive survey of our young people in all 91 secondary schools in the region on their return to school, having sat the junior cert. So these are children that come back to school having finished the junior cycle, and they'll go into TY or 5th year. They'll sit down and do the Planet Youth survey, which is an examination of their lives in the round, if you like. So they answer all about their life at school, their life at home, their life online, their hobbies, their sports, substance use, sexual health, mental health. Very, very thorough question. Actually, originally we used to do this in a paper-based form, and it was about a ton of paper had to be gathered up and shipped to Iceland. It's done online now, so these surveys that are planned going forward will be done online, so we get the results back quite a bit more quickly. But what we're trying to, sorry about the scribbles here, but what we're trying to do is look at preventative actions. So whilst the children that sit the survey are, at 15 and 16, we're really looking to try and improve outcomes for the children coming behind. So it's to try and find out what's going well in their lives, where we can make improvements,
And these kind of changes are, interventions are applied in the domains on the screen there. So the biggest influence on a young person's life is what happens at home.
I'm trying to get my earphones.
School then will be a huge thing as well. Their peer group they're involved in, what they're doing in their spare time or their leisure time, and their
Amos, you're on mute again.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. I don't know how that happened. So the survey is done at this age group of 15 and 16. And then what we do is we try and bring back these interventions to the age, your children are starting into secondary school now very shortly. So these will be 12 and 13 years old. And there's also a big piece of the project happens at the start of school, the start of junior infants. The Parent Power booklet is one thing that gets distributed and out through all the national schools here in the west of Ireland, typically in October, November. It's a big piece of work, as you can see here. We'd have a lot of, that's what the office looks like. We're pretty much through October, November, they're doing the distribution of that. It talks a lot about, what's the survey telling us. So, the children are 10 years away at that point. So the children currently in 5th and 6th will be doing the survey in 2024 or 2026 or 2028. So your children will be doing the survey in probably in about 4 years' time. Okay. So it talks about family time, the importance of keeping that going, sleep and bedtimes, hobbies and sports, screen use, that kind of thing, making changes to home, parents working together. And this is another piece of work that then goes out and is distributed through the 81 post-primary secondary schools in the region, typically in September and October, with a supporting talk that happens quite a lot of first-year induction nights around the region as well. So that's a very simple little booklet. Another big piece of work that's, some of it being done just at the moment. Actually, it's just getting packed up in their Galway school. So the second years there did a big job in getting it all packed up. And again, it talks about a little bit about the project, what the data is showing. So you as parents starting into first year, this is what's happening 4 years down the line, or what the children, just as they're coming back to school in their 4th year, are telling us. So you have the opportunity to get ahead of a couple of things at that stage. So family time, hugely important. We know that. We're doing extremely well here in Ireland. All the parenting data and metrics that are in the survey hold up extremely well internationally. We're about the highest in the world for an awful lot of stuff. And in fact, it's improved over the first 3 surveys that have been done. So we're really, really good in the parenting space. And I don't say that lightly. It was pointed out by the people in Iceland. So it's just a matter of keeping that up, keeping that going, keeping family routines going. As the children get older, they'll want to be spending less time with their parents, a natural thing. But wherever there's routines like meal times or family get-togethers, and just this idea that communication all the time can be good at home is the main thing, right? Okay, hobbies and sports was a big part of the Icelandic prevention model. A huge investment there into extracurricular for young people and youth infrastructure, which we'll be aiming to try and do here in Ireland as well. Substance use is an issue here, predominantly while vaping obviously is a huge problem now, but our biggest concern really will be around underage drunkenness, and it tends to be quite high here in Ireland and very high here in the west of Ireland. And it's a concern because the young people who drink regularly from a young age, if they drink regularly from a young age and their first night drinking is a positive experience, it's quite likely that they're going to go on to have difficulties as they go through adult life, because that's just the way the developing brain works. Unfortunately, they're just increasing risk for dependency by starting young. So we're always trying to encourage parents to try and push that initiation or age of first alcohol use out, not to be giving kids alcohol. And it's quite important. Parental attitude in the space is quite important, because as we can see here, right, this is a question the children are asking us. Sorry, how would your parents react if you got drunk, smoked, vaped, used cannabis, that kind of stuff? And what it shows here is that the children that are filling in the survey feel their parents are very, very much against them smoking or vaping or using cannabis, but are far more tolerant of them getting drunk. And that, in fact, has been, that tolerance, if you like, has been increasing. Or approval, if you like, has been decreasing over the 3 surveys, which is a concern. And the last thing to point out here is that you don't have to be completely black or white about it. Every little bit of parental disapproval around the topic seems to matter. So If your parents are totally against you using substances or drinking, getting drunk, and so on, you're far, far less likely to be doing so. And if they're a bit or a little bit more or a little bit more, or if they don't really mind, you're far more likely to be using substances. So I'm just showing you that slide just to say, it's not a black or white issue, but the best job you can do about pushing it out, it does seem to matter. And the bad news in all of this is that they're quite likely to come asking about this kind of stuff as early as second year, because here in Ireland, it does seem to creep in to the conversation in as early as second year around the discos and can we have a can or two and so on. And it tends to be the first parents that give the alcohol, that tends to be the house then that kids might want to gravitate to. Or everybody's under pressure, I suppose. Mary's parents let her drink, why can't I drink? That's the same thing you'd have had with phones in national school. So just pointing that out. Screen time, we use huge amounts of screens, unfortunately, and then bedtimes here are very late, or sleep is actually probably our big problem. So those are kind of just guidelines around what bedtimes ought to be at this age category, right? And I just want to point this out to you. So in the survey, the children are asked about their sleep. What time do they go to bed? What time do they get to sleep? What time do they get up for school? And so on. And only 44% of them are sleeping the right amount. The 33% at 7 hours will be okay. They'll catch up probably with a good lie-in. The 15% and the 8% won't catch up. That's a sleep deficit that's, unfortunately, they're always going to be in the back foot throughout school. Because they just can't function on that amount of sleep correctly, right? This is a correlation between that sleep they're getting and their mental health. So at 8 hours, 64% of them will be reporting positive mental health or good levels, able to report good or very good mental health. And you can see how quickly it drops away. That's sleep and mental health correlated. Sleep and well-being is it's called the Short Warwick Edinburgh Subjective Wellbeing Scale of 7 items. So you can't really hide in the questionnaire from this. You're asked, about your, how you feel about yourself, life, how you feel about your future, all this much more subjective questioning. And it is a much more accurate picture really in terms of their well-being. So you can see again, just the direct correlation between the amount of sleep our teens are getting and their overall well-being is very dramatic. Stress the same, self-image will be the same, self-esteem absolutely the same. Even things like physical health and so on are all impacted. School work is impacted the same way. And this is a scale in here that's around school engagement, which isn't schoolwork or academics. It's just really readiness for school, happiness in school, that kind of thing. And again, the picture is very, very clear. So the biggest preventable health problem, in fact, we see with our young people is lack of sleep, right? This was a question that was in the most recent survey about phones in bedrooms. 83% of these are 15 and 16-year-olds, by the way, in TY typically. So 83% would have a phone in their room at night, which is a big part of the problem. It's not the only reason. So we're going to a lot of kind of effort here in the West to try and alert parents to this and try and see collectively as parents, can we try and get the phones out of rooms a bit more, or help our young people with sleep routines a bit more, because it's so important. And there's kind of a general project underway on this around kind of parental contracts. This is at a younger age in national school, at junior and senior, about trying to keep young people away from phones, particularly until they hit secondary. And just some things. What would I say to my young self? So these are children these would have been 16, 17-year-olds asked about this in Eris, actually, in the Eris Youth Project. What would you say to your 12-year-old self about the phone? Now, there were some good things that they said and also some very poor things, but I'll just go through a couple of these. I wish I didn't have it because it affects my sleep. Can't go a day without it. Shouldn't need it. Wish I'd never got one. So that's what a 17-year-old say to their 12-year-old self. Put down your phone, spend more time with friends and family. There's more to life when you're young. Your phone, go for a walk. Friends, enjoy life without your phone, and so on. I wish I didn't have my phone until I was at least 14. So you can waste a lot of your time just scrolling. Okay, social media alone can will influence life. Give you unconscious bodies for it. Constant urge to be perfect and ruin your mental health. So be careful. And you found out too much at a young age with the phone. You'll have a phone for the rest of your life, so don't get attached to one at 12. Anyway, I'm just kind of alerting you to that. Yeah, their phones are useful, but they're also a bit of a curse, as we all know. And just to try and kind of monitor that a bit, keep on top of that a bit. And if you're bringing in the phone now, or if they've got one recently, or they've got one a confirmation, or they're getting one towards the end of school, one of the things we're looking at here really is by working together as parents, we can do a lot. And we talk about this a lot at the first year induction nights in the West here, around this idea that if collectively, if enough parents can bring this, no phones in the bedroom idea in, all the kids will benefit, right? So 8 o'clock would be a good guideline in first year for no phones, 8:30 in second year. So basically have the phone charged in the kitchen or the hall. And webwise.ie is a very good Irish website for all sort of information related to screens and phones and everything in that line. So I'd recommend that anybody have a quick look at that. Apps can be useful. Family Link and Apple Screen Time and things like that for kind of monitoring phone use and setting limits and stuff like that. They're only go so far though. The kids are getting very sophisticated at workarounds and getting ahead of all that too. But they are helpful. Okay, so you can do a lot, and then I know it does get tricky once you get into secondary. You have 8 years of national school where you get to know everybody, and very quickly in secondary it gets harder because there's a lot of feeder schools and you don't know, the friends change and so on. But if you can make an effort as much as possible to get to know the other parents or the parents of the new friends, it will stand to you, because you can rest assured if you're worried about something or something that's being proposed, the other parents are almost certainly the same. But it's that thing is that the kids will be coming in next year and saying, well, everybody's doing this now, everybody's doing that now, everybody's allowed up to 11 o'clock and so on. And you'll find it's hard to unpick that if you don't have the other parents on your side, kind of a thing, or within range. So that's a little bit of that happens with the Planet Youth stuff. There's also a lot of information that's fed back to schools. There's a nice teaching website for use in junior cycle, SPHE, that kind of brings a lot of the data from the survey back for use in the classroom. That's a little bit of what it looks like. Covers a lot of different topics like sleep and bullying, cyberbullying, screen use, peer pressure and so on, substance use. We do a lot of individualized school reporting. So every school in the west of Ireland who participates will get a kind of its own unique school report that looks at how you're getting on and compared to other schools and so on, to see if you're high or low for anything. And then there's county-based reporting or municipal reporting that really give you a good idea in all sorts of ways how our teens are getting on generally. So if anybody's an interest, you can find those in the Planet Youth website. Okay, so I'm nearly there. This is what's called the stepup.ie website, which that's the domain name, stepup.ie, and that was developed actually in 2020 during COVID, because if you recall back to then, all of the kids left school in March and they all went back to school in September, and we didn't know, in fact, if they were going back to school till quite late in the summer. And so none of the children that year had any kind of school transition work done. And that's why the website was built and put together to try and support all those kids and those parents a bit more. Depending on what school you go to, be it national school or what secondary school you are going to, or whether you have an agency like Helen Butler's, like a youth agency in your locality, it does vary quite a bit from place to place what sort of school transition happens. It's no standardized program. Unfortunately, there's no real standardized program that's done, and there's probably room for one. It's a really important time in a child's life. Just the move between national school and secondary school. I don't think quite enough attention's paid to it. Really, we did know when the website was built, just by the number of kids that were using it that summer, what such a big topic it is for them. I think there's 70,000 children make the move between primary school and secondary school every year in Ireland, approximately. And that the summer during COVID, I think there was 23,000 individual kids used that website that year. So it gives you an indication that, what's that, 2 out of 7, or a little more than 2 out of 7 kids in the country wanted to find out a bit more about the move. So that's what's on it. There's these 8 kind of topic areas: how school works, which is all around like lockers and timetables and things like that. Skills for school is things like maybe time management and kind of that sort of stuff. Tips from older students, popular part. You, the student, is about self-efficacy, managing, where do you want to be in all this, what are you hoping for, that kind of thing. Friendship and feelings, staying healthy, hygiene piece, and then information for parents. A lot of information for parents in that green section there. That's what the site traffic looks like through the summer. So it is very busy throughout the summer, the website. Those are users per day. So you can see you're kind of getting up to, certainly around 500 users almost every day throughout the summer. A popular website. And these are the main topic areas the kids are seeking out. So how school works, timetables, skills for school, tips for all the students, and so on. A good few parents looking at it. So a really useful website. And I would say it's a nice one to maybe sit down with your child over the summer and go through it with them in part. You don't have to do it all in one go. At least make them aware of it. And that's it. I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to stop sharing my screen in a minute. I'll just finally say, if people did want to submit a question to the panel, the best way to do it is probably to try and send it via email to that address there, info@planetyouth.ie. I'll be monitoring that closely, but I will also try and keep an eye on the chat as well a little bit. So if people want to stick it in there, if there's no easy way to send an email fired into that, I'll try and keep an eye on that too. But we'll be covering a lot of ground anyway, so I'm going to jump in now and stop share and switch over. Actually, let me just share one last thing. Share screen again. So screen 2, share. That's Gina's website there for anybody who can see it. I can't make it a lot bigger than that, unfortunately, but that's, you see in the address bar up there, adolescent.ie, adolescent.ie. And Gina's based in Tuam. So any parents that are joining us now from the West and they're curious and seeking her out, that's a good way to do that. This is the actual stepup.ie website here. Fairly straightforward to use. You can see it here, how school works, school routine, timetables, lockers, school bags, subjects, what to do, getting lost. It's actually one that the kids would be worried about, adjusting to multiple teachers and classrooms, homework, getting to school, uniform, school rules, journals, phones, supports in school, mentoring system, who's who, that kind of stuff. So you can see there's a lot of information in there. Okay, I'm going to shut up with that. And what we'll do is I'm going to spotlight. I can spotlight. I need the image off big, and then I add spotlight. Niamh and Helen. Where's Gina's there? Add spotlight. Okay, so those guys are going to be our 3 main speakers, and I'm going to jump right in. I have some questions here that came in already. I'm going to fire them over here. Okay, this is probably one of the most common ones we get all the time, right? Which is around anxiety. My child is very anxious, and I'm very worried about her going into a big secondary school. Okay, so the anxious child. I could jump in with you first, Niamh, if that's okay. What do you think? Is schools very different now to what they were 20 years ago, 25?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Hi, everybody. How are you? So what I would say is that, I think anxiety around going to a new school, and especially the transition from primary school to secondary school, is totally understandable. It's a major transition, and I think we all appreciate that. And if we remember back to our own days, we can even remember how difficult it was going from primary school, that cozy, safe one classroom where you knew everybody in the room, and suddenly you're in this big building surrounded by older students and a bunch of teachers, and you have to try to, orientate yourself. But what I will say is, I'm chaplain in a school now for about 15 years, and I would meet with first years throughout the year, and they are all nervous when they start. So it's not unique. So the first thing you can do is, you can reassure your child that it is perfectly normal to feel anxious. So reassurance is the key. What I would say is, the teachers are dealing with new faces every year. We just, it's just this big cycle. We're welcoming in this whole new batch of students. We want them to do well. Everyone is willing them on and willing them to be comfortable and become part of the fabric of the school. And it's amazing how quickly that actually does happen. So if your child is particularly anxious, I would say, and Gina will talk a bit more about this, but I would say get them to name their anxieties. Name what it is, talk through the different scenarios. And, suddenly these huge problems in your head aren't as difficult as they seemed before you talk about them. I think if your child has extreme anxieties, it is, I'm sure, possible, and I know it certainly is possible in our school, to get in touch with the school and have a tour of it beforehand, before the date for going back to school happens. And that can sometimes put put a student at ease. And just to know that, like, when they get in there, they're all in the same boat. They'll have a journal with a map of the place. Like, we're constantly spending that first few weeks directing people to their classrooms and all of that sort of thing. So try not to be too anxious. And the thing is, sometimes as a parent, we're more anxious than our children. And it's because, you know, we have that protective streak. And it's just to, I suppose, to get that into perspective and not to try to put our anxieties on our child. Make it exciting. This is the big new chapter, and isn't it brilliant?
Thanks for that, Niamh. Gina, what do you could you pick up on that a tiny bit more for somebody who's like, you know, really?
I think Niamh, you can see, is very reassuring. And as parents, we often need to put our stresses and worries down, because we tend to go a month ahead. We tend to go years ahead. Well, what if, and if only, and oh. And often your teenager is looking at you going, whoa, you're looking worried, so I'm definitely going to worry. And we know that young people settle down. We know they're very adaptable. You may have that wonderful, finely attuned, beautifully sensitive adolescent at home. Try not to think of them as anxious. Think of them, oh my goodness, think of what they're going to do when they get older with this beautiful sensitivity. Because we view it as a problem, and the kid that's not putting their hand up or not saying anything. So I look to that young person as, oh, you're a great observer. Imagine all you're going to take in. And then you say to yourself as a parent, okay, what is it I'm worrying about? Is this mine or is it theirs? And you try and reel it in so much more. And I say, you know, we have to deal with and we have to feel with problems. And when we do both those things, we manage to process the very useful tips like Niamh said. Okay, is there someone we can talk to? Is there a way I can check in? Or is there something we can do this evening, like putting down the homework and going for a walk? You did brilliant. And I'm all for rewards, not punishment, and not telling them they have to do this and they have to do that. They will do it. And a lot of this journey for the whole of secondary school is about dealing and managing changes and building trust. And that's the most important, that your adolescent sees you trusting them, and then in turn trusting the system that they're going into.
Thanks, Gina. Okay, who can my child talk to if a problem arises? He has been to therapy before. He's a very sensitive boy. I don't particularly want school to know about his contact with mental health services. He's doing okay at the moment. Okay, so every school will have a pastoral care kind of a setup, and that'll be explained. But could you run us through that a small bit, Niamh, what that might look like typically?
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the first thing that I would say is it's great that particular child is doing well at the moment. And, you know, there may never be an issue again. But I think that I personally think it's good to be transparent with the school if you're going in, and just to try and get those supports in place. So if your child has had issues, I wouldn't be worried about sharing them with the school. It's, you know, it can be kept, you know, between you and whoever you talk to. You know, it's not going to be bandied around the place. School isn't the way it used to be years ago, where everything was nattered about in the staff room and that sort of thing, you know. So, and GDPR and everything like that. So you can, you know, very comfortably talk to the people in there about any difficulties your child has had, and to reassure them that, yeah, look, my child is doing fine now. But it'll give people just that little heads up to keep a little special eye out. The schools have great services. There will be a pastoral care team. Every school is slightly different, but in our place, you know, you have your year head, you have your chaplain, you have your guidance counsellor. And we also have the mentors. So the older students will be mentors to the first years. So they'll be able to link in with them. So like, I think that, well, personally speaking, I would be saying, try not to keep it to yourself. If your child has had issues, it's no harm to say it. Like, we are there in loco parentis for your child. We want the best for them. We want to care for them. And we can care for them more adequately if we have the information. So what I would say is, you know, just to avail of the services that are there. You know, nobody has a problem in the school with someone coming to see the likes of me. You know, a child might have a bit of anxiety, and they'll say to their friends, yeah, I'm going down to Miss O'Flanagan to talk to her. And they say, oh, grand, yeah, it's absolute, there's no stigma attached. I feel anyway, very, very little, there's no stigma attached like there was years ago. And so I would say just avail of those services, encourage your child to talk if there is a problem. And Gina, you can probably jump in there, I would say.
Yes, I would be all for openness and honesty, because you're not going into details of whenever anyone is in therapy, but you're saying, yes, we sought support out, and that shows you to be on the ball, whatever the support is. And it shows your adolescent that, yeah, I'm not betraying your confidence, I'm not doing that, I'm just letting them know, you are a beautifully sensitive person who finds beginnings hard. Think of yourself as an adult the first day you went into your new job. Oh, where's the coffee machine? Where's my desk? Where's this? The anxiety isn't any different when you're going into school, when we have to do first. So the more open we are, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, and you're helping young people with that openness. And isn't that what everybody wants for their teenagers, to be open and honest? So we have to model it.
And in terms of mentoring systems, Niamh, a lot of schools that have that now, where they have like not necessarily big brother, big sister, but like they might have a fifth year or TY,
yes,
one-to-one person for the first few weeks. How would that typically work?
Yeah, they'll usually have, well, in our school anyway, you'll have one older mentor for maybe 2 or 3 young ones. So they're even kind of nearly in a unit as well, which is nice. And just to encourage your child to talk and not ask questions, and not to have any anxieties that are kept hidden, to just say, yeah, it's okay to ask questions, that's absolutely fine, and don't worry, and if you're having any difficulties, please speak up.
And I could be mindful of how you ask questions. If you ask any young person in secondary school, how was your day? Fine.
Yeah.
Did anything happen? No. It's amazing. Nothing happens. Nothing goes on. We have to be very creative in how we engage with young people. Who got into trouble today? Who's a bit vicious in there? You make it kind of interesting, so then you're finding out about who they're aligning themselves with, and a favorite teacher. And as Niamh knows, and Helen knows, anybody will say, well, I don't like that miss, they looked at me wrong, assuming that teachers are thinking about them in that way all the time. And it's like, and how did you deal with that? Sounds like you were very impressive. And then you'll find as they go through, okay, so you got told off because you didn't do your homework. What a surprise. So it's having that engagement, where you're there to get the information, because adolescents are great secret keepers. They're wonderful. We all did it. And that is their job, to close up. And yes, they need their privacy, but if you are concerned there's a struggle going on, or there's been some difficult experiences, in primary school, be creative, please. It works.
Thanks, Gina. One for you to start with here, Helen, if you don't mind. Is there anything I can do to help my child to be more organized for school? He's not great when it comes to organization, homework, etc.
Yeah, I could keep you here all night talking about this one now, but I won't. There are loads of things you can do. I think up to this point, parents have kind of managed everything for their children, but your child's moving out into a wider space, meeting more people, needs to take a little bit more autonomy, to take a little bit more ownership of what they do. So even between now and September, you can do things like discussing with them what the plans are. Whereas prior to this, we might have said, we're going to Granny's on Sunday, or you come to town with me tomorrow. But now we're talking about, well, this is what I'd like to happen. Can you come? Will you come? What are you doing? Have you plans? And getting them to start thinking about the future, even if the future is only a few days ahead. I think that's one part of it. I think helping them to have all the right stuff. I'm it's quite a while now since my children were in school, but I did all my August jobs the minute school broke in May and June in secondary school. But I washed the school bags, washed the uniforms, put everything away, so I had nothing to do until well, it's now August, but until September. And it meant I could enjoy the summer. We could all enjoy the summer without worrying about it. So maybe it is about getting things out of the way, so that there's no stuff like, oh God, I have to do this. And you're putting a bit of pressure on them as well, because now they're seeing it as a big thing. So I think ironing out the creases where you can would be part of it, making sure that they have everything that they need, helping them to read a timetable. There's a little bit on it on the website, but I'm sure they have maybe older siblings or cousins or neighbours who might just talk them through a school timetable, because they're like a bus or a train timetable. They're the same but different. You know, they look different companies, but they are ultimately the same. Same applies to the school timetables. And helping them to mind their stuff. You know, maybe over the summer learning even to manage their money a little bit. But to making sure they have their coat, making sure they have their phone is charged. All those things that you would have done for them maybe up to now, but we need to be getting them to do it for themselves. That really helps. And I think one big one is getting into the practice of having the school bag ready from the night before, so that in the morning, for example, if somebody did sleep out, recognizing that first year's already going into school with a certain level of anxiety anyway, because they're new. So now they've slept it out and they're running around the house going, where's my pencil case? Where's my locker key? Where's my jacket? Where's my this? So they're now going into school extra agitated, where as if the bag is ready and the coat is ready and all that has to be done is put in the lunchbox, then, you know, a few minutes late in the morning can actually be ironed out really easily without upsetting anybody too much. So it's a good practice anyway for life, you know, being ready and being prepared, I think is really part of it. Talking to your child in language that suggests that you know they can do this, you know, always talking about, well, when you have this and when you have that, and never an if, because, you know, like Gina said earlier, you know, if you have a doubt, then there must be something for them to really worry about. It's one thing for Granny or Auntie Mary to think that, oh, I hope he or she settles into school, because they sort of know them. But if Mammy or Daddy is saying, I hope, I wish, I wonder, then there must be, if the people who know me the best in the world have a doubt about it, there must be something I should worry about, you know. So making sure your language is always about, you know, how exciting it is. Gosh, I remember when you started in infants when you were 4, and look at the height of you now, and you know how lovely it's going to be to meet new people, even though you yourself might have been traumatized in first year. Maybe you find it really difficult to make new friends, you know, but you have to dispel all of that, push it off to one side, because this particular space belongs to your child. So I think helping them along like that is part of it.
And I
And
think we
keeping
should
track
all
of
bring
it.
Helen home.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you might be along bringing me back.
yeah. And especially if often if you know your adolescent, often when neurodiversity is present, that organization can be that bit harder, and they may not want you to do it. So like Helen said, you're doing it in that nice, encouraging way, that's supportive, rather than I do your lunch. No, they'll all take you doing their lunch and doing everything. But everybody knows the sleeping in, missing the school bus, and I think I used to call Jesus quite a bit, and I had to give that up because it didn't really work. So it's learning to manage your own organization, and then you're able to influence a lot more. Because if you're not a morning person, then you know you need to get up that little bit earlier or have that extra cup of tea or coffee, because inevitably something will be forgotten. Or you will get the note from the day before, or, oh yeah, I have a match today. What match? Where? No, I'm going to work. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And we can prevent a lot of that. I think if you do everything Helen is saying there. And I see Niamh nodding, because you talk a lot about organisation too, Niamh.
Absolutely. And one tip I would give is to get these zip files for subjects that have a lot of bits to them, like music, where they have to have the recorder and the manuscript and the book and the hardback copy or whatever it is, and they have it in the pack. So they grab the pack the night before, or, you know, they have just everything, sort of preempt everything by having everything in place. And as Gina said, like the last thing you want first thing in the morning is, well, I forgot to tell you, but this is happening. And, you know, that all that does is raises the heckles on you, you know, and everyone gets off to a bad start. That, you know, so it's all about, you know, getting ahead of the curve, I suppose, really, and put everything in the hall. So you're going to actually trip over it the next day.
Yeah,
Don't leave it, you know, trip over it and go to school with it, because the anxiety. I'd have children coming to me saying, oh, I forgot my iPad and my teacher's going to kill me, and what will I do? And suddenly they're just so worried. But and you know that they know that, look, it's not the end of the world if you forget something, but and just go and talk to someone who will help you out, you know, but
Mm.
just to try not to let that happen. And
Those
no,
Ziploc bags, Niamh, they come in different colors and all, don't they? They can be
they
colored, you know,
do.
you can color per subject, or you
Yeah.
can color code your
Yes,
timetable with your bag, with your little Ziploc. It's a nice little thing to get ready
absolutely.
in during the
Yeah.
summer.
And I will show you this, right? This was my timetable this year. I have to color code it every year because I can't read it unless I color code it. I wouldn't have a clue what I have. So I have it there stuck up in my office. So the night before I go to school, I look at it and I see, well, what do I have tomorrow? You know,
Yeah.
so color code the timetable, laminate it, put it on the fridge, laminate another one and put it in their pencil case. Just make everything as obvious as possible. And suddenly you have a child who gains confidence and, you know, develops their own sense of autonomy, which is really what we want for our children.
Yeah,
And the biggest subject is often home economics as well, because you don't want to hear about the ingredients the night before
Oh,
Yes.
that's brought me
that
to
you
the
may
brink.
not have. Home economics, check their diary for
Yeah.
that, because I
Yeah.
have to get it. You have to bring me into town now,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Well, that's the one I think where if you know they have home economics on a particular day, it's that evening to say, what have you got next week? And put it on the shopping list. But I think also it's good to help them to use the alarms on their phone. You know, if they've got PE tomorrow, have the alarm ring at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock and PE. And that's the cue to go and get their gear and put it in the bag. You know, the same for woodwork or music or those things where you have to bring extra bits that you might forget. I think that the phone, you know, is overused in some ways and underutilized in other ways. And just to come back to what Gina said about, you know, there is a lot of stuff that we parents do that actually causes grief. And you mentioned about, you know, timekeeping. I would say my children were never late for school because of their fault. It was nearly always my fault, but I never got given out to it for it. They were always the ones who got given out for it, you know. So again, you know, me learning to manage it, I can't say that I did it terribly well, but you know, those type of things, you know, getting notes in on time, making the phone calls to school that you need to, because they're going to stress that you don't do it if you have a habit of not doing it. They're always going to be a little bit anxious. So they're little ways of helping.
And the organization, I think you both brought it in there, and Emmett, you certainly said it. No phones in their bedroom.
Oh God.
I have a very black and white rule on this, and they will beg you and they will tell you, Mary and Tom and John, and if you have a phone in their bedroom, you have at least 200 people in their room. And you can imagine having 200 people in your house that have a different value system than you, that have a different conversation. You simply wouldn't do it. And so if they have the phone in the room, they automatically stay on it late. It's a natural thing. They are scrolling, they are tired, they are cranky. And then you're getting into that battle, which no one wants to do, which is pulling the phone. So don't worry about who supposedly has the phone in their room. Start off very, very clear. No, we will discuss next year. No, you will not discuss next year. It won't be in the room in second year either, because no good comes of it at all. It basically is open access to everything. Doesn't matter what filters, what they will find a way to override it.
Oh, it's like breaking out a door in your child's bedroom out onto the street.
Yes.
And you're fast asleep in bed, and the world and his
Yeah.
mother can walk through your child's bedroom,
Yes.
and they do. And young people are not able to police themselves. And a lot of, you know, I do workshops with young people from time to time, and they'll tell me things like, I don't mind if my mum or dad take my phone, because then they have a legitimate enemy, if you like. They can say, well, I'm not allowed to. My mum or dad won't let me. But they themselves are not able to say, I don't want to have my phone in my bedroom, or I don't want. And you can do it for things like homework. Plug it in the living room while you're doing your homework. Oh, I need a clock. Buy a clock. You know, I need a calculator. Buy a calculator. You know, all those things. But and they can take a break when they're finished one set of homework. Come out for 5 minutes and scroll on the phone if they want, and go back in again, but leave it behind. If you add something like 45 minutes to an hour to a teenager's homework, having their phone in their company, and I've gotten back from young people, talking to them, asking them how much time. So,
and if you're neurodiverse, even more time, and even more tears.
Yeah.
And You can't unsee something unsavory on your phone. It gets welded in here. The limbic brain is very busy anyway, and you can't unsee something disturbing, and it will pop up. Be rest assured, it will.
Yeah, and Cara, one of our audience there, one of the early chats, actually, if you want to go back and put in a link to an article from the journal from last week, which I had read at the time, about a teacher talking to students about why they wouldn't allow a 6-year-old look at their phones, and these 13-year-olds are talking about beheadings, pornography, stuff that I can't unsee this. One student actually says it, I can never unsee what I saw on the phone. You know, and we're happily giving them devices, and we're leaving them in the company of things that they just can't manage. And it's so
guys,
unfair.
we better keep moving. We have a bit of ground to cover. Just a final thing on the organisation piece is heavy school bags, lots of books. They'll get better with it, I think, Niamh, as they go in terms of swapping stuff, bringing what they need, but you know, moving stuff in and out at break times and with the envelopes and stuff. But I think those first few weeks, they feel they need to bring everything everywhere with them, I think, because
and they're very, very attached to their bags, is what I notice. But to, I suppose, encourage them to use their lockers and to go to the locker at break time and see, well, what do I need next? So they're only carrying around what they have, say, between break time and lunchtime. And then at lunchtime, go back and get whatever they need for the evening. There's one issue that I see happening in our school is this mad rush to get to the bus. The buses tend to sometimes leave straight after school. So the children are saying, but we don't have time to go to our locker before we get, before we get home or whatever, the bus will go without me. So that's kind of an added anxiety, I think, for young people. So just, to be aware that maybe they're, having to carry a lot of stuff around, maybe to just bring it from lunchtime, the end of lunchtime on, and to try and just get into a system and a routine, and to use the lockers. The lockers are great. And I suppose with technology, if you're in a position that they can have an iPad or whatever, depending on the school, that they could have their physical books at home to do the homework, because I know sometimes people like to use the physical books, and then at school they can have their books on their device. But again, as I said, that depends on the school and on the family and all the rest of it. But
there will be a need to kind of drag, unfortunately. So it's heavy, but a lot of schools, they'll be needing to bring stuff around with them for the first week, I expect, till they start to get used to stuff. Now we move on. There's a few questions here. And I'm going to sort of ask them together, if that's okay, because they overlap a little bit. And okay, so they're largely in and around neurodiversity. So here's one. Okay, my child only recently received an ADD diagnosis because it was recent, and through private intervention, he had no assigned resources as he moves into secondary school. Okay, what should I be advocating for, and what small things can I do to help him that will make a difference? He's not anxious, but as I am, but I'm worried he could suffer setback by not being prepared. Can you park that one just for a second? Because I'm going to stick a second one in beside it, which is similar in a way. Okay, so I'm waiting on an ADHD assessment for my child. It might be September before they get seen. What can be done to support her before and after? So very similar, right? But one has the diagnosis and one's awaiting it. So they're not. It's not something they brought up with them through school. They're arriving. The school's probably a little bit on the back foot as well. But just that idea of what, in that instance, could a parent do, and what generally are the supports like in secondary school around this kind of topic? We're just talking ADD there now.
Yeah.
Sorry for you, Niamh, if you don't mind.
For me, yes. So, regardless of whether an assessment has come in or not, you can tell the school that this is what we think my child has, and we are awaiting a report or an assessment. So that will be, provisions can be put in place already. I think part of the battle with a diagnosis like this, or a possible diagnosis, is that the staff know, that teachers know. So they will know that, well, okay, Johnny in my class has ADD, attention deficit disorder. I know I need to sit him near me, and I need to be able to keep checking in with him, keep his focus. I will only know that if I'm told that. So it's important to communicate with the school tell them. Say, I want their teachers to know. So then you're allowing this information to be passed on, because that will empower the teacher to be able to be, you know, if it's differentiated teaching and they need to give extra notes, to make sure, maybe check in with Johnny and make sure that he has the homework taken down into his journal, or, you know, that type of thing. So so the ADHD, then with the hyperactivity, maybe another provision could be put in place. So you know, teachers are equipped to deal with situations with children having neurodiversity, but once they know. And so even if there's a possibility, I feel that my child may have ADD, or having it assessed, just to let people know. And you know, that will absolutely help. And it doesn't have to be discussed with the child. If he's saying, oh, I don't like people knowing, or whatever, to explain to him, everyone is just going to help you. And not to kind of make it into a bad thing, you know. I think we were having a chat the other night, and we were on about superpowers, Helen, do you remember? You know, and saying that, you know, what some people might see as a weakness might be a superpower for someone else. So,
and if your child, you know, we know all these presentations are hereditary, and so you have to expect certain levels of fatigue, certain levels of upset. So you have to, you know, tailor make your support to what your adolescent needs too. And you think of yourself and look around your own family, you know, who's neurodiverse, what did you possibly need? Maybe you're diagnosed or undiagnosed, but there is a level of support needed, and a big level of understanding, because the brain has to work harder, a lot harder, to process information, to retain information. It has absolutely nothing to do with intelligence, nothing. It's a separate area, but it's just about processing, you know. And it once you're aware of it, and once you fine tune to it, then you do the things that give you breaks and support your amazing brain that has challenges, without a doubt. It makes life, you know, academically harder because there's a lot to concentrate. But like Niamh said there, or Helen was discussing, there are a lot of really wonderful benefits. They come later on usually, but there are.
And also, you know, your child might have an exemption from Irish. So during that time, then they might get extra learning support during that time, where maybe they get ahead on their homework or something like that, depending on what they need.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question here. It's sort of a general question for everybody, so I might get everybody to chip in on this one. So there's 2 or 3 here together, right? One is, do I continue to check my child's homework in secondary as I have in primary? So park that for a minute, okay? Then there's one down here around, should I set a desk in my child's bedroom be set up for homework instead of the kitchen table? Concerned he'll be dossing up there without any supervision. And then, so that's 2, the sort of homework oriented. And then another one around homework load kind of a thing. My child is worrying about how he's going to do such a long day at school and then come home and do more homework and then fit in sports in the evening. So there's 3, but they're kind of overlapping a little bit. Any thoughts on any of that? I'm going to say yes, keep checking.
Yeah, you have to monitor, and again, you have to adjust. This is a marathon. It's a 6-year marathon or 5-year marathon. So it's all about adjustment. You do the homework very differently than primary school, but you're now looking after an adolescent, and you're parenting differently. So monitor, support, change it, rechange it, and expect this to be ongoing for a long period of time. If you know your adolescent has difficulty concentrating, you know, they may do well in their bedroom if there's too much noise downstairs. They may do part of their homework, you know, upstairs. Again, you have to monitor that. The prediction is they're dossing, you know, that's a prediction, is it? So mind that and go, what can I help you with? Maybe they'll benefit from a cup of tea and a biscuit. And maybe that's too tiring for you. So you're like, no, down there where I can keep an eye on you. And your support, think of it as support.
Yeah. My son is leaving cert. He's doing the leaving cert right now. And this year I set up a desk in the sitting room for him to study all year. And it worked really well, because I said I have to get him out of the bedroom. So every child is different. The main thing I think is, and we talked a lot about phones. that they do not have their phone with them while they're doing their homework. And they'll say, but I need my phone to check this and to check that. No, you're not having your phone. If you need your phone, you come back down to me and you can check your phone. You know, but
Yeah.
do not have the phone when you're trying to do the homework. And then the other thing is, but I have to listen to music while I'm studying. I don't know how they do it, but they seem to be able to have the earphones in and they're listening to music and they're doing their homework. But yeah,
Now,
they're
speaking of homework,
enigma.
just on the topic there, homework load is a concern because obviously more subjects and what have you. But there's techniques and tricks and ways to manage that as well, and prioritize and sequence. Don't be doing your Irish homework. It's not needed until next Monday and so on.
Exactly.
Any thoughts
Follow
on
the
that?
timetable. Yes, I would say follow the timetable. Look at the timetable and say, well, what have you tomorrow? We'll prioritize that. And then, oh, if we've time, then the next day we might get a head start on that day. But you know, not to think, oh, you have to do all your homework every night. And if your child is struggling with homework, tell the school. Do not let them do an exorbitant amount of homework. It is counterproductive. So to say, well, okay, we're going to spend 20 minutes on this subject and we'll see where we are at the end of that. And if it's a case that you have to sign a note to the teacher and say, I'm sorry, but this was all they were able to do. But at least they've attempted it. At least they've tried.
About an hour a day in the chat there. Does that sound about right to you, Niamh?
I would say probably, yeah, at the start, about an hour. Really, you know, it depends on the child. Some people, like I had a daughter who struggled, which has severe dyslexia, struggled all the way through secondary school, and homework was a torture. My son then flew through homework. So everybody is different. But I don't think any child should have to spend more than an hour and a half in first year doing homework. And I also think that all of these extracurricular things like sports and drama and all of these things are equally as important. So, you know, not to give them up. Sometimes you hear parents say, no, we have to give this up because of the studies. You know, we're talking about a holistic education, not just academic.
Yeah. And I think it's a good idea to, rather than look at what have we to do tonight and what have we to do tomorrow, to look at the entire week. And I'd even start the week by saying, where are the nice things in the week? You know, there might be a match on Wednesday night that somebody would love to watch on telly. So how can I protect that those few hours so I can watch that match in comfort? You know, do extra homework on a Tuesday night or whatever. Also, chatting to them about, you know, their time. If it takes an hour and a half to do the homework, first year and second year students will tell me that it'll add 45 minutes to an hour more to their homework if they have their phones. But talking about, you know, could you do your French homework and then come out and have a break for a minute? Or, you know, could you get 2 subjects out of the way and then maybe take 10 minutes to go outside and kick ball or play with the dog or go for a walk? You know, we all study differently. You know, I wouldn't be somebody who could have sat for 2 hours straight and studied. I mean, I'd have just lost the will to live. Whereas I have one child who could do it for the whole night. I'm not sure whose child she is, but she certainly wasn't mine. But there are, you know, different strokes for different folks. So figuring out which one your child is, but maybe involving them in it. Homework is a fact of life. It's like income tax. Or as one first year said to me once, they even give you homework on your birthday. And he said it in such a morose voice, God love him. But again, it is involving them and saying, look, you have to do this homework. So what's the best way to do it? If you made a start here, then you could watch that on television. Then you could go back and finish it. Or don't forget your training here. Or, you know, we want to go to Granny's house there. Or, you know, things like that. Just including them so they're part of the solution. I think
and you're mindful of yourself too. If homework is a big trigger for you, like I am 5th class maths, that is my level. So I got support for my daughter with maths because we found out very quickly there was going to be a war and the psychotherapist was not in the building. So it's finding maybe, you know, dad, uncle, granddad, whoever is good at maths, and you're sitting there having the cup of tea regulating. We have to be mindful of that because homework brings up so many triggers for parents. It really does. And we have to know our limitations as well as our strengths, and we're teaching that and showing that.
Can we just talk quickly about a couple of things here? They sort of overlap. There's 2 kind of things I want to try and get through before we finishes. It's a common question that comes up or concern that comes up around let's call it bullying / isolation. My child was bullied in school. She was isolated. He was isolated. Is that the similar? The same kids are coming to this, to this secondary school. I'm worried about the child. This being an ongoing issue and so on. That's the one that always comes up. Then low confidence is another one. And I just see how you guys would feel about answering that. But also then this idea of there are more opportunities for young people around extracurricular and getting involved, making new friends, joining clubs, that kind of stuff. I think there's a bit of overlap in there somewhere as well. So whatever you think about that.
Absolutely. I think, if someone has been bullied in primary school, they're going to dread meeting those same people in secondary school. But to know that they're going to be way more diluted. So those people that they had a problem with before aren't going to be as obvious in secondary school because it's a bigger setting. And to be able to, I suppose, encourage your child to know that, look, you're going to have such an opportunity to make new friends. And, anytime I deal with situations where a child is being bullied or picked on, it's always confidence we work on. That's always what we work on, the person's own confidence. And, to be able to stand up tall and have a presence and not shy away and just get your voice and find it. And, you might have a child, you mentioned sport there, that mightn't particularly be sporty, but there's going to be loads of different opportunities to join groups and, join the music group or join the choir or join the chess club or whatever it is, or the Lego club, and, make friends through that. If it is a problem where, say, someone has been really badly bullied by a particular group of people, let the school know and try and have it in such a way that your child isn't necessarily in the same homeroom class as those people, so that they at least get respite. Like, they may end up picking the same choice subjects, so you can't tailor make it that they're never going to be in the same class, but at least for certain subjects they'll have a bit of respite. It doesn't seem to matter how well a school is run, bullying happens. The thing is to, I suppose, really know what constitutes bullying. And sometimes people build up a situation in their head into a bullying situation. It might not necessarily be a bullying situation. So to know that bullying is repeated behavior. And I think sometimes, or I suppose what I've noticed is sometimes, it's this transferring of anxiety onto your child. If you've had a bad experience in school, it's just to be really aware that this is an opportunity for your child. They're living their own separate life and they're not going to have the same experience as you had. And it's, I suppose, just let them develop their sense of self-esteem, really, without trying to get caught up in all of that. But it's not easy, and I do find that, and very much particularly with girls have a different way of socializing than boys. Boys they go around in a big huge group, big clump of boys. They don't know who's in the group, who's not in the group. They all kind of move around together and accept each other, and they don't seem to have this this clickiness that the girls seem to have. So girls will fall in and they will fall out in second year, particularly in second year. And they will have their fallout. And to know that if your child comes home and says, oh, such a one isn't talking to me and we've been friends since play school, they may well develop new friendships. They may well gravitate because they're finding themselves. They're developing their personalities. They're developing their values and what they stand for and what they think and what they like and what they don't like. And they may well gravitate towards a different group of people. And that's natural.
And they may well fall back in again. So there's no point in rolling up the sleeves going, well, now I'll sort that one out and I'll do this. The most important thing we do when your teenager is telling you a story is to listen with love and to listen with compassion. They don't need us to solve it. Yes, they need guidance and direction, but often that honoring of that sounds extremely difficult. That sounds upsetting. We kind of jump into, do you want me to go into the school? No, oh my God, don't embarrass me. And so we get that solution focused when we feel with it, we're feeling with them about the experience that sometimes we cannot remedy, and sometimes the school can't either, because bullying is difficult, very, very difficult. And putting it back to them, what do you think would be best here? I'm wondering how I might be able to help, can be so much more valuable and empowering.
I think as well.
Okay, guys, listen, I'm getting very conscious of the time. It's 7 minutes past. We said we finish at about 5 past. Couple of things here. I'm going to I'm just sending into the group chat. Send any further questions into info@planetyouth.ie if people wanted to make a note of that. If we haven't covered something tonight, send me an email and I'll do my best to answer it for you tomorrow. Okay, if I can, I will. Just before we wrap up, there's a question came in here from a parent who had a query around sleep. Where they have a child who's a very, very poor sleeper, always has been. They've looked at this, they've looked at that, and I'm just going to answer that one by saying it's something that I talked about at the start. It is a huge issue across the whole young population, but even putting aside somebody who's particularly bad sleeper. So for the last couple of years now, we've been doing in November a webinar with Lucy Wolf, who's pretty good on the topic. She's writing a couple of books on sleep for babies and toddlers and things. And she prepared a lot of material for parents of teens as well, right? That just for the webinar. So we did a couple of them the last 2 Novembers, I think it was, and they're recorded and they're up on the Planet Youth website. So if any parent is here tonight has a concern around sleep, particularly, I'd say that's a good place to start to seek that out. So those recordings you can have a flick through. They're time stamped, I think. You could have a quick look at different topics and stuff on that. And she's got very good advice about a lot of stuff around, improving sleep and things, sleep routines and various sleep hygiene, various things. We'll probably repeat it in November this year as well. So I'll send out the usual emails to schools about that. So that's another thing. The other one I thought just we might end on, if you don't mind, and I expect all of you might have some input around this. Any organization or where to turn for help with a 6th class child with serious anxiety, school refusal, very apprehensive about the move to secondary, has severe dyslexia, finds school life extremely stressful. So it's going to be a tough move. Any thoughts about further supports, organizations with good advice or support in that area? Might be one for you, Helen. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think talking to this, people in the school, the secondary schools, be important that the school's aware of all of that. But I think as well, maybe finding groups like within the youth service, depending on what county the individual is in, like the youth services often do one-to-one work with young people. It's not a therapy session, but it's just a one-to-one session working on these things, or doing some small group work where maybe we're just helping to iron out some of the worries, going through things like timetables or finding your way around and things like that. We play games and we do stuff, at the start they don't know how to read a timetable, then they're having a game and suddenly they're able to read a timetable and things like that. But again, there might be a need for more professional assistance. And I just kind of go back to something that was said at the very start where they were talking about letting the school know or don't know. We would tell a school easily if your child had a problem with their leg or their arm or their ear or their sight. We should not be in any way ashamed if we feel our child has something of a psychological nature that needs to be dealt with. And I'm speaking, from personal experience, and I recall one of my kids saying, "Mammy, everybody should be able to go and talk to a therapist," because sometimes it's only just another person who has an outside perspective, who isn't muddled with all the emotional stuff, particularly the sense of failure that parents have when they feel that there's something wrong with their child that has to get an outsider to fix. We get outsiders to fix loads of things. We might not want to broadcast it in terms of flag flying about it, but we shouldn't be ashamed of it either. But, so maybe that child does need to talk to somebody, in that kind of a professional area, but certainly within the youth service, there are people who can help. But mixing, I think, with other kids and talking about the excitement and the positive move and the great time and reminding them of things that they did already, where, I remember when you were doing this and you were so worried and look how easily it turned out and look how, things like that. You might add to that now, Niamh or Gina, but.
Well, I think sometimes we use terms like school refusal. Nobody refuses really to go to school. What young people refuse to do is terror and pain, which was obviously an experience for this young person. And then we, as parents, get into the worry, well, what if they never go? It's a little bit like toilet training. What if they never learn how to go to the toilet? Like, everybody learns how to regulate. And that young person needs a lot of patience. It can be upsetting and frustrating for a parent and very panic evoking. But that young person, I think, like Helen said there, their lovely techniques and their support and their distraction and their fun and their energy. And again, often families, we're so invested in it when we're focused on the behavior and the concern. Whereas if we go to Helen, we go to somebody, they're supporting the parents to support the young person. They're making it, yeah, okay, might not happen today or tomorrow. Don't put a time on it. And it's like, I think you'll know, Niamh, all schools now are very much aware of this, and they work within the timetable and the supports, and it often settles.
Absolutely. And I would say as well to try and visit the school before school starts back. Get used to the building. You know, get in there in August, earlier on in August, have a look around, talk about, oh, wow, and won't this be great when you get to do whatever, you know, and from a really positive point of view. And to even get used to that journey into school and out, and, you know, just get more comfortable with the place, really. And even if there was a person, like a young person going to the school that your child is friendly with in any way, they might go into the school with them for a visit beforehand. Schools will often facilitate that.
I'm just going to wrap things up here now very shortly. I did say quite a lot of schools now would have a video tour as well, I think, on the website. The websites are very good. Another good thing to check out is the school website. Have a browse through it, give you an idea who's who and what's going on and things that, you know, that sort of stuff. I think something that's kind of come through fairly strongly tonight is just around the idea of just keeping good communication with the school. Any issues, alert them early, alert them, you know, keep the communication work with the school. And keep on top of the journal. You know, there's always going to be a school journal. There's a lot of information in there coming, and that's a way a lot of schools will communicate with you as parents. That's it. I want to say thanks, Niamh, for joining us. Thanks, Helen, for joining us. Thanks, Gina, for joining us. Very kind of you to give up your evening. And I was looking at the comments that are coming in. There's a lot of very, very appreciative and thank yous and appreciative parents there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it up with that. This is all being recorded, hopefully. And what I'll do is I'll upload it over the weekend, because everybody that's here is, you know, registered to attend. There will be an email that will come out to say that the recording is online, and there'll be a link to it. So you'll get an email letting you know about that. And that's it. Like I said, if there's any other questions, fire in an email and I'll do my best to answer it tomorrow. And then other than that, thanks one and all. Any final thoughts, guys?
Enjoy it. I
Yeah.
think it's part of a natural progression. It's the one transition your child is probably going to be most conscious of so far. So helping them to make good transitions in the future, but enjoy it.
And it'll fly.
And it'll fly.
It will. It
Absolutely
will.
fly. Yeah.
And young people are fabulous. They are.
Yeah,
And the
they're
more
beautiful.
trust you put in them, the more likely they are to confide. Yes, they're meant to keep secrets. That's normal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
And
Thanks
start-
once and thanks all. Much appreciated your time. And okay.
Thanks very
We'll
much.
hang it
Have
up
a good
now.
summer.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.